Hi everyone! Today it was announced that Christopher Miller and Philip Lord are going to be directing a Han Solo origin film, which will be the second of the Star Wars Anthology films following Rogue One, which is coming out in 2017, I believe. And this Han Solo film will be coming out on Memorial Day 2018. And as you may know, Christopher Miller and Philip Lord are the directors of the 21 Jump Street films, which are, 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street, Collide with a Chance of Meatballs, and the Lego Movie. So, this is pretty big news. There was already speculation and talks of doing a Han Solo origin film, but now it's confirmed that that's going to be the next anthology film. So, I'm a little bit divided about this film because there are scenes in my head that I think would be really cool to see, like Han Solo meeting Chewbacca for the first time, meeting Jabba, winning the Millennium Falcon from Lando, encountering Boba Fett. But I don't know if there's an actual story here. With Han Solo, his big character arc kind of happens with the first two Star Wars films, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. And I don't know if there's much to tell beforehand. It's not like with the prequels where you had an interesting story, or where there was a potentially interesting story, because there can be arguments made about the execution of those films. But with those films, it was like, okay, we have Anakin Skywalker. He goes from a good guy to a bad guy. The Republic falls. The Empire uh, comes to power. There's a potentially interesting story there, regardless of how it was executed. But with Han Solo, I'm wondering if there's really an arc for him. One that wouldn't feel contrived. One that wouldn't be, oh, his parents left him or they were killed and that's what set him on the bad track, or he starts out as, this naive guy, but he becomes cynical. I mean, I guess you could do that. You could sort of say Han Solo, didn't start out, kind of as a scoundrel. He sort of just became that. I guess that would be the story. And the screenplay is by Lawrence Kasdan, who was one of the writers on The Empire Strikes Back, and John Kasdan, which I believe is his son. Let me look. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, John is his son. So, and of course, as I said, Lawrence Kasdan is one of the co-writers of The Empire Strikes Back. I believe he's also a writer on the new Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So there's potential here that there could be a really good story. I don't want to say, oh, it's going to suck. We don't need Han Solo's origin story. I mean, we don't, but it could be interesting to see. As long as it's a good film, you know, that's all that matters. And of course, there's the question of who's going to fill Harrison Ford's shoes, because there's no one really like Harrison Ford. There may be better actors than Harrison Ford, but at his prime, there's no one really, quite like Harrison Ford. Whatever you feel about his choices now, again, in his prime, he was a legitimate movie star when he was playing Han Solo in Indiana Jones. Um, and that's the problem, right? Because you do want someone who can feel like they are the younger version of that character. You can't go so far off that it doesn't feel like the same character. So that's the tricky balance, to find someone who's not forcing the Harrison Fordness, but can kind of still feel like, you know, okay, that's the young Han Solo. So casting is uh, very key. Yeah, as I was, Harrison Ford is Han Solo, kind of like Sean Connery is James Bond. Though, of course, we've gotten enough James Bonds that we've sort of become used to other interpretations. But Han Solo's never really been recast, so it's hard. We're still not like there's no real distance like with Sean Connery and the character of Bond now, where sort of Bond has become sort of more than just that one actor. Indiana Jones and Han Solo are kind of Harrison Ford. Now I know Chris Pratt's name was tossed around for Indiana Jones, and I think it's being tossed around for Han Solo. The problem is Chris Pratt is pretty much the same age as Harrison Ford was. I think a little bit older than Han Solo was, than Harrison Ford was when he did the original Star Wars. So he can't really be the young Han Solo. That and Chris Pratt, I really like him. I can see the appeal of him playing an Indiana Jones like in a reboot, and playing you know Han Solo, Indiana Jones esque characters, but he's not really a Harrison Ford type. And you don't want to have someone who's you don't want to force the Harrison Fordness, but you want someone a little bit closer. And of course, Chris Pratt, he's sort of become the obvious choice. You don't want to be too obvious. And again, as I was saying, you need someone younger. You need someone, 10 years younger than Chris Pratt, to be the younger Han Solo. A few names that I've heard tossed around are Taron Egerton, who played Eggsy in Kingsman. I know some people threw his name out there for Spider-Man. I liked him in Kingsman. I wouldn't mind seeing him. I don't think it would be that bad of a pick, actually. I also heard Miles Teller, which would be kind of interesting because Miles Teller can play the kind of arrogant, or has played kind of arrogant characters like in Whiplash and in the Divergent films. He's not quite a scoundrel, but he can play the kind of the guy with an ego. So he would be interesting. Again, I don't know if you can really see him becoming Harrison Ford though. Someone also just suggested this was the same guy, Scott Feinberg, who's a film writer. He also suggested Eller Coltrane from Boyhood, the main character. And while yeah, he has made the right look, I don't know how good of an actor he is. Yeah. And who else did I? Who else did I hear thrown out? But yeah, so I'm gonna be really interested to see who they cast in this role. And of course, it'll be really cool when we get the first set photos, first promo image of this actor, in the Han Solo getup. And it's just, kind of overwhelming how much Star Wars stuff we're going to be getting over the next several years. It's kind of like with superhero films. Like, we just keep getting so much. We get so many movies. It's just constantly behind the scenes casting news. And I feel like Star Wars, I think it's kind of going the way. It's gonna go the way of the superhero kind of genre, in that we're gonna get so kind of used to it, and it's not going to be as big of a deal getting Star Wars films eventually. Like with the prequels, even though people didn't really like them, it was a big deal when they came out. Of course, when Phantom Menace was coming out, before it disappointed everybody, people were hyped up for it, and even Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like, it was a big deal getting those films, even though I think people kind of knew, oh, well, they'll probably not be that good. I mean, ideally, these films will be better, that they'll be more consistent, but yeah, it's hard not to be a little bit cynical. Um, Also, something I want to talk about, Princess Leia. Now, that's someone who I could kind of see an origin story about, because Leia, I think she kind of doesn't get as much of a character arc uh, uh, as Han or Luke in the original films. I mean, she kind of does, but I think it'd be interesting to explore her origin, how she becomes part of the Rebel Alliance, her life as a princess. That would be cool. Um, Also, I want to mention that they also announced that Darth Vader will is rumored to be in Rogue One, which Rogue One is about events preceding Episode 4, the original Star Wars film. It's about the Rebel Alliance stealing the Death Star plans. And of course, people have already speculated before about whether Darth Vader, could make an appearance, and it really makes sense. It makes sense for Darth Vader to be there because Um, you know, he's such a big part of the Empire, and you have to remember Darth Vader is actually a really scary villain when you see him. You know, coming onto that rebel ship at the beginning of the original Star Wars, and this film coming out on that, in the anniversary year, it'd be great to see, that Darth Vader back again because yeah, we got to see Darth Vader in Revenge of the Sith at the end in the suit, but he didn't really do anything. And there was that scene where he screams "No," and it's a little bit silly, but I think it would be a much bigger deal, I think, to get Darth Vader in this film. You know, 40 years after his first appearance and see him like he was in that original film, taking down rebel spies and well, he probably wouldn't be like the main villain like the Empire would be. It's a war film, so it would be like the Empire being the overarching threat. But it'd be really exciting and it would add some tension to see Darth Vader in that film. And of course, you would also need James Earl Jones to play Darth Vader. I believe he's doing the voice on Star Wars Rebels, so I think he'd be clearly up for doing, it in the new film, and yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on the Han Solo film. With Chris Miller and Philip Lord directing, I really like 21 Jump Street and the Lego film. And I thought 22 Jump Street was really funny, even though I didn't think it was as good a film as the original. These guys can take kind of iffy projects and uh, make something really good out of them. Like the Lego Movie, that was one of my favorite films last year. Hilarious. So, hopefully this will take us by surprise and be, really good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that film and also Rogue One. So tell me, who do you want to play the young Han Solo? Do you think this is a good idea? And yeah, just anything Star Wars related, talk to me about. So that's all for now. Bye.